Welcome, everybody, to the Friday Night Live Calling Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. We're going to have a fantastic time here tonight, as once again, this is a show for you. This is not a show for me. This is a show for you to hear your voices on all of the topics that are happening within this thing we call UFO, not ology, but UFO, within the UFO community. Let's go there. You know how I hate ufology, but before we get started here, so I had a mess here, right? And first, let me start here. We weren't here last week, as you know. We've been dealing with the illness within the family, and things have been going up and down as far as that goes. A moment it looks okay, looks bright. Next moment, we're on the fence. We don't know, and so we're back and forth through that right now, and just don't know how this is going to turn out. So. I know you guys have been showing a lot of love out there, for one, and sending a lot of healing energies and prayers. And I just ask that you please continue to do that. I had to step away and leave town to go out there last week, which is why I wasn't here for last Friday's show. And potentially that could come up as well coming into the future. So I really do appreciate your patience as I'm navigating through this, right? Some tough times in life that really it tests your character and who you are, and it tests your strength as an individual, right? And as long as you have faith in the one up above, I think that helps out a lot, right? Just for starters. And then the love that we get from the community is definitely something I'm able to read and get some solace from. I was with this family member who is currently unconscious in the hospital, but I'm just hoping that this person can hear me as I'm speaking, and I'm telling this person that the UFO community has your back. Like they're sending these real healing energies, through the internet, and it's a real thing. As we know, once again, the story I've told where I've witnessed it myself. So. It'd be lovely and appreciated if we just have some more of that going on out there. And I know you guys are awesome like that, so I don't even have to ask. But I did want to start out with that. And then also getting the show started tonight. So I was thinking about this, right? So I was making my cup of coffee here. A cup of coffee is evident right here, right? As I do before each and every Friday show. Nice cup of coffee. And I'm going for the sugar, right? We have sugar in this big, huge glass container, holds probably 2 pounds of sugar, right, at once. And so I'm reaching for it. As I'm reaching for it, someone comes through the door, which is right next to the cabinet that it's in, and it drops. It falls on the floor, and it bursts, and sugar goes all across. Just imagine 2 pounds of sugar just across the floor. Right before we were supposed to come on tonight, so that's why we had to push it back a little bit. So as I'm sitting there cleaning up this mess, I'm like, let me go ahead and drop a message in the chat, let everybody know what's going on. And then at the same time, I can feel the little the granulars, or if that's what you call them, of sand beneath my feet as I'm sweeping up, because it's pieces you can't even see, right? They're so fine. So I'm making sure I get everything up, right? And then I'm thinking about each grain of sugar, and I just start thinking about the universe, which is, I guess relatable. And I'm thinking about, man, even though there's all this dang sugar I got to clean up on this floor, think about each grain of sand as its own, as a planet represented in the universe. There's probably more planets out there that contain life than each grain of sand that I'm looking at right here in this monstrous pile of sugar on the floor. My mind went there. But then it was also an amazing moment, because visually, I don't have a calculator to calculate how many grains of sugar were there, but it was like, it could almost be plausible that might be a true statement, that every single grain of sugar that I'm looking at, could represent it, at the very least, planets out there that orbit stars out there in the universe. And it just was mind blowing when I thought about that. So, kind of a way to turn lemons into lemonade, right? And kind of turn a mess into a teachable moment. So I thought that was pretty awesome, right? Yeah, let me go ahead and jump out here in the chat, see who has come on in as we go through the first of a bunch of conversation that we're gonna have here. Kitty Catty Whack, I saw you bright and early, and I appreciate you coming on in. And she stated, Rob, I was thinking about you the other day. How are you and your family doing? And saw that you're having a live tonight. Yeah, uh, I almost didn't have a live tonight because it was unsure if I needed to go back down there. It's about 300 miles away from here. And, you know, the way things have been going, I kind of was like, well, let me sit back and wait for a minute. And I said, I'm here at home. Let's go ahead and do a live. Let's get one in because I didn't want to go another week without doing one. And this family member would definitely, want nothing more than for me to continue to do what I'm doing at the highest level. And so that made my mind up to go ahead and do it. And I appreciate you asking about the family. We have a lot more family out there visiting. First, it was my mother. She's still there every day. And, we have a lot of other family members that have come on in. And, you know, it's just one of those things, right, in life. And some people are used to dealing with, a lot of trauma, right, within the family over years. Like I know some individuals that have, had something like this happen every so often within the time that I've known them. And then you have a group of people that it just rarely happens to, and then it all happens at once. And, it's just, you always wonder how you'll be in those moments, right? And I've been tested. But I can say that learning what I've learned in this community and as far as I've always had religion there, so that's full stop. I always knew there's a God. I always felt there was a God, whether regardless on what you may call him. But then also seeing evidence of activity that is present after a person passes, like just the idea of that confirmation, almost confirmation, not necessarily confirmation, but at least evidence that kind of shores up the fact that there is a continuance, right? And it breaks down to consciousness and understanding what that's about, and then kind of doing the thought experiment that we do a lot here, which is kind of just, well, if that's possible, then let's look at these other things. And I've had shadow people, I've had other things that don't represent what we consider to know as this waking life that we live in. So I've had other things that have shown to me that, hey, there's something more to this thing that we don't understand, right? And that kind of, that's another thing that kind of shores up and helps give you strength through times like this. It's one of those things where you have some people out there that just don't believe in any of that. They don't believe in a higher power. They just believe we're here for some reason, and once we're gone, we're just gone, right? Some people believe that. But there's been, and I'll say if the evidence was there to show that for me, then I might be, a person that would lean more that way as well. But it just hasn't been the case. I've seen too much, experienced too much. And even if you look at what you read in a Bible as metaphors, there's still a lot there that points to there being more than we understand, right? And as long as there's more than we understand, that means we don't have the answers, which is why we do this show. So that was a nice kind of roundabout to get back to the show here. So appreciate that, Kitty Catty Whack. Thanks for coming on in. And let's see, Cosmic Joe Chronicles, I see you out there. Appreciate you showing on up. Saying, woo, I am ready. Okay, Cosmic Joe, you're always ready. Appreciate you coming on in. And once again, just showing love again. I see you guys out there. Appreciate all the love. See Tech Mattel, I see you out there as well. we're gonna get in some good topics here, definitely. Yep, StreamYard link. I haven't posted it yet because I had to clean up the cosmic mess in my kitchen. We'll call it and not your cosmic Joe, but I had a cosmic mess in my kitchen right before the show. So we'll be getting that link posted here in just a moment. And oh, Kurt M. Yes, agreed. He says, Kurt M says, it could be worse. It could have been 2 pounds of glitter. Oh my God. Now just a side note, and I don't know what I was doing with the glitter or why I had the glitter, but just a little small container of glitter, just a little small. I think we were my girl wanted to put glitter on the bathroom walls for some reason. I don't know. I forgot what she called it, but it was kind of mixed in with the paint, and it was some little artsy thing, and you kind of did the paint and you kind of shot some glitter onto the wall right afterwards, and it kind of made this pattern. I forgot what you called it, but we kind of did that, and yeah, I gotta admit, because when you throw that, not all of it sticks, so then a lot of it ends up on the floor, right? And yeah, you're talking about a mess, especially a mess that's very hard to clean up. Yeah, I got you, Kurt M. Totally true stuff. Let me go ahead and get Yet 2 pounds of glitter, that would have been fabulous. Sparamarv says 2 pounds of glitter. I don't know what anyone is doing with 2 pounds of glitter. I don't know what you would need 2 pounds of glitter for. But yeah, Paramarv is in the building. Appreciate you showing on up. And let me go ahead and I'm going to get some stuff up here. There was obviously a couple stories out here that we want to talk about. Within the UFO community. Let me go ahead and get the first story up. As I do this, I'm going to attempt to as well post the link for the going to post a link for you to be able to join the stage here. So let me do both. This is going to be, let me bring this up on stage. Pentagon, right? Anna Paulina Luna, she told Pete Hegseth to release these videos, right? These UFO videos, gave him a deadline. Did we think the deadline was going to be hit? We didn't think so. We didn't think that would happen. But that's kind of what's going on right here, right now. Surprise, would you believe, if I can get this up here, would you believe that the Pentagon misses the UAP video deadline? I don't think so. Let me go ahead, and while I have this up, I'm going to go ahead and get people up on the stage here. Okay, let me get this up. All right, so that'll be the link. I'm going to go ahead and jump right on into the story here. Everybody knows. I mean, who thought, for one, hands, I guess. Ones, if you thought this was going to even happen, or twos, if you knew that this was a waste of time for Anna Paulina Luna asking for these videos to be released. Who thought it was going to happen by the 15th? Ones, who thought there was no possibility in the world that this was going to take place. Twos, sure, there's going to be a lot of twos out there. There should be all twos, because I really don't hope that anyone thought that they were going to go ahead and follow up with this. And but I kind of feel like there's a reason there. This is kind of an unstoppable situation here. I think we're at a time where it's just not, the ability to stop this is just not there, right? So even if they release the videos, even if they don't release the videos, I just don't feel like there's a way to put the toothpaste back in the tube. We're too far on. C-Tech stating, I heard there was another announcement today that the videos will be released by tomorrow. Is that right? I don't know. That could be a part of this article I'm about to read here, C-Tech. So let me go ahead and jump into that, actually, and then if you find anything else, definitely send it my way. So Pentagon misses UAP video deadline. Pentagon misses UFO video deadline. Rep Luna eyes subpoena. All right. Let's see what they say. This is courtesy of News Nation. Robert Jones apparently wrote the article, so shout out. Make sure you guys go read the full article on their website. But a House lawmaker is threatening subpoena action after the Pentagon failed to meet a congressional deadline to turn over dozens of classified UAP or UFO videos. She saying she is prepared to compel production of the footage if, quote, institutional resistance continues. Rep. Anna Paulina Luna, chairwoman of the House Oversight Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets, told News Nation Thursday that the Department of War missed her April 14th deadline to deliver 46 UAP or UFO videos she formally requested in a March 31st letter to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Luna said she intends to work directly with Hegseth to secure the footage and described him as a close working partner aligned with President Donald Trump's directive on UAP or UFO disclosure. She said she is confident cooperation between her office and Pentagon leadership can produce the requested materials. The UFO mystery. White House asked about missing dead researchers. However, Luna warned that if resistance continues, she is prepared to work with the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer to exercise the committee's subpoena authority. She also called for the removal of the unelected official she said was responsible for failing to route her letter to the appropriate authorities within the department. The 46 videos requested in Luna's March 31st letter span multiple military branches and locations and include footage of UAP formations captured over Iran, the Persian Gulf, the East China Sea, and near U.S. domestic airports. Among the files requested is footage of an F-16 shooting down a UAP over Lake Huron, February 2023, and multiple incidents documented by MQ-9 drone operators. Stephen Garcia's disappearance, similar to 9 others UFO insiders. Luna's task force has been investigating UAP or UFO disclosure since at least September 2025, when it held a hearing during which whistleblowers testified that the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, known as ARROW, possesses additional video records of potential UAP or UFO sightings that have not been publicly released. Quote, the lack of disclosure regarding the very real threat posed by UAPs or UFOs in and around U.S. restricted airspace is concerning, Luna wrote in her March 31st letter. The presence of UAPs in and around the sensitive airspaces of U.S. military installations poses a threat to the security of the armed forces and their readiness. Luna has also faulted ARROW directly, saying the office's responses when questioned about UAP or UFO sightings have been, quote, less than adequate. The House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform holds broad investigative authority under House Rule X to examine any matter at any time. So we'll go ahead and kind of kick that around for a little bit. So these videos, these 46 videos, now I'm not, and I'm sure there is a reason why there's a specific number of 46 videos here. And I would want to know who compiled that list, who put together that list of 46 videos. And the second question I would have, are these 46 videos that were maybe shown to them in previous skiffs? Were these 46 videos that they know show without a doubt what this presence is? And when I say that, are these videos that she's already aware that end up showing whatever these things are in 4K, high definition, close up? Is that what we're going to see with these 46 videos? That's what I would hope. That's what I would be asking. And I'm going to look back here in the chat, see what I know. Mateo was stating something here. Let's see. Okay, it's not due tomorrow, so the videos are not due by tomorrow. And here's the thing. So, and I was trying to explain this to someone earlier, as well as my mother, right? Because she's becoming very interested in the topic, or she's having, the time. We're talking so much that we have to obviously talk about other things, outside of a family member that we're praying for her. And being able to have her ear and kind of talk about this. I kind of brought this up to her because she was not understanding really what this process was. I talked to her exactly about this, actually, and how when the Congress is requesting certain things and they're not being complied to, then the next step is subpoena. You get them there under subpoena. Then you have the opportunity, under oath, to get them to say something that isn't true, and you kind of pin them into a spot where, either they're going to be accountable or they're going to, at least point them in the right direction. So it's a mechanism that is designed to work in the way that it's working now, right? With the next step being a subpoena, and what else were you going to expect? And, maybe at least, once you put someone under the light like that, maybe, you're in a situation where behind the scenes in a skiff, they divulge information to Congress that would have not normally come out. I don't know that Pete Hegseth himself has any, direct connection to these programs, or maybe even a reason to want to hide it, right? I don't. If I'm in those programs, I wouldn't probably tell them anything, or give them access to anything. It's just when you see the type of person that you're dealing with, there's certain people that you're okay with release. So I wouldn't really, I'd be surprised to see him come to the table with any of those 46 videos, or have the ability to even get his hands on any of those 46 videos. I'd be shocked. But if he did, I would be hoping that those videos were going to be these 4K videos, something they knew to target, something they knew were there that would prove to the world without a doubt. Because anytime we talk about videos, the first thing that's talked about is, why are they so blurry? Why are we looking at them through these different lenses? Why do we not have just a 4K 4K image? Now, here's what I will say, and I don't know if it's actually on this, but Tim Burchett talked about this recently. He actually had a couple interviews, one with News Nation, which we're going to kind of look at that, stop and go through that. And I don't know if it was in that one. He also did one, I'll bring it up, with Sean Ryan, where he talked about the reason why he felt like some of this stuff would be blocked. And he's just talking about how he makes reference to the quality of the videos, or the quality of the images, them being high quality. He mentions that in the interview. So I'm assuming that he has insight on what it is that Rev Luna has requested, and maybe they sat down together to put the list together. But apparently there's at least some videos or images within this group. I don't know how many. Maybe they all will be this way, or maybe just a handful. But there are at least some, based on what Tim Burchett has stated, that will be of the highest quality. Because the comment he made is the first thing people are going to say when we get our hands on, our hands on these, are going to be, that's AI. So if he feels like it's going to get to the point that someone says that's AI, then we're talking about some pretty high quality images, right? To even have to argue that's AI, these would have to be some pretty substantially high resolution images or videos. And I think we did a show a few months ago, and I don't know what has changed, and I think it has to do with what we talked about, like when you have these presidents and people with these clearances that make certain statements or confirm certain things, it kind of opens up the window to target other previously protected classified information. And I don't know, maybe if these videos are now a part of that based on some previous statements that have been made earlier this year when we're talking, or last year when we're talking about the Obama statement, then right behind that the Trump statement, or pretty much confirmation that Obama may have spoken about confidential material, which really in essence confirms the fact that what he was talking about was actually true, which means that he's admitted that there is validity to this. And so if there is validity to this, it shouldn't be something that's, protected by NDA or confidentiality agreements, therefore kind of opens up the ability to target somebody. So I don't know if it's a snowball effect of that, but I think it would seem to be, because this is kind of different, right? The fact that they're targeting specifically 46 videos. We haven't done anything or had any, things that have happened up front in the public that would facilitate that we know of. Anything that has changed in the posture or the landscape that would facilitate, them asking specifically for these 46 videos. So I would assume it had to, it's likely some snowball effect from that whole activity. And then Trump finally coming out saying, hey, release the files or release the records. And I think and we did a show about that, saying I think when they start doing things like that, admitting things, then it kind of opens up more cracks in places where you could target on an offensive if you're trying to, extract information from the government. I think that might be what we're experiencing. But let me see. Let's see. Let me go through some chat here before we bring people up here on the stage. Let's see. Yeah. See, Take Mateo stating, that's the $1 million question. Will these videos be of more fuzzy, unclear objects, or will they be definitive proof that there's something from out of this world? And I got to say, I don't see a point of, if they're asking only for videos, a group of videos, I don't see any point in asking for videos that are not going to be satisfactory, not unless they show something, movement or something of that that links to the 5 observables. Then if it wasn't anything more substantial than what has already been released, which most people consider to be underwhelming, and with the fact that these same representatives that are asking for these videos have been in skiffs and seen the high resolution videos, then you would assume that is what they're asking for. Paramarv heard a rumor in his head that the videos are delayed because they are in post-production. They're adding Jar Jar Binks to all of them. I wouldn't put it past the Paramarv. That's just truth. But no, seriously, I think that being that these same representatives have seen in the skiffs the higher quality, films, they've come out and said, Burchett has said a million times that he's seen like crystal clear stuff. And I think this is what they're asking for, because it's not, when you think about it, generally the way it's gone in the past is there's been a whistleblower, or there's been someone who has stepped forward from the public who may have some knowledge of something, who is then, coming in front of Congress to ask them to ask for certain things. When this doesn't seem to be prompted, at least on the outside that we know of, we haven't seen anyone go in front of Congress to ask for these particular 46 videos. So, you would assume then this is maybe a request that was built or derived from simply the Congress members and the committee members, which if so is a good thing, because that means they are growing as far as their knowledge base, and then knowing what to look for or what to ask for without the assistance of, UFO experts out there, right? So they know, hey, we were shown some pretty strange videos at one point in time. Hey guys, why don't we get together and request those videos, because there wasn't anything that should be classified in those videos, and we can all agree on that, right? You have a lot of them come out and say, I don't know why that was classified. I have no clue why they classified that. So maybe they got together and said, you know what? Those unexplainable high resolution videos we were shown at this time, let's group them all together. Totals about 46 of them. Let's ask for those to be released because they shouldn't be classified. And if so, that's a good thing. It shows the government working on behalf of the people. I would be shocked and surprised and amazed if that was the case. But it makes total sense because we haven't seen anyone openly come out and ask for this cluster of 46 videos, with a specific number like 46. So I think that's something to kind of keep an eye on and maybe consider as we bring one of our guests here on the stage here, Cosmic Joe Chronicles. He's always here with us talking UFOs and kind of diving into the subject. Were you expecting anything, Cosmic Joe, from this? We had heard, even last time we talked, they were talking about, I think they had just announced that Luna wanted to have some of these videos released. What did you think about it when you heard it? And then were you surprised that they didn't meet the deadline?
I was not surprised. They stagnate everything pertaining to disclosure anyway. I don't think they're going to ever disclose anything until we see in the sky ships clearly, everyone. So it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty tough. It's going to be pretty tough. And actually, I want to talk to Roger Murray real quick because we've been missing each other, Roger Murray. Talking about, I miss you, Rob G. I'm in the hospital right now, kidney dialysis, infection. Pray for me. I'm definitely praying for you. And, I hope you get a speedy recovery. I know kidney dialysis is no joke. I know you've had to take time off in the community as well in the past. And people have been telling me, hey, Roger Murray's been reaching out, man. We've been missing each other. So I'm glad to see you here tonight, even though with what you're dealing with. And it's all about love and healing energy in this community. And we're sending that right on out to you, Roger Murray. So once again, appreciate you for coming on in and joining us here at the show tonight as we talk about a few of these subjects within UFOlogy, I guess. As much as I hate it, the UFO community. Okay, let's go back to that. Also, Benno from Oz, 1975. Appreciate you showing on up here. Talking about hi, Rob Mars. Somebody told me that apparently Jar Jar, they made a Sith Lord. That is dangerous. Yeah, beautiful thing at this point. And this is one of the things I was, because once again, I know you guys all know this. You have family members out there that you talk to about the subject, they kind of look at you with the side eye. They're like, yeah, okay, let's talk about something else. After a while, right? Okay, yeah, great. But how are the Knicks doing? How are the Lakers doing?
I believe don't let me come to Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas because they don't believe my experiences, even though my two sisters were involved too. So, I don't get any love from my family pertaining to UFO subject.
And that's how it is for a lot of people, Conley Joe. And it's I gotta tell you, man, it has been more. And I gotta shout out Bob Lazar in this moment because Bob Lazar, since he came out back in 1989, he's been given all sorts of hell for this and for that. And, a lot of the statements, he made all of his statements up front, which was another thing that people don't really consider. Everything that he really said, he said initially and up front. All the information about what he was involved in, what happened, what he saw, all those things were said in the initial couple times he was spoken to, and then it's been the same the whole time. And then those things have been validated over time with other things. And there's no other better way to, for validation than to have this historical moment where it was said and then you let time pass, and even though there were naysayers, there were different things that kind of validated each point of what he was talking about, and there's still more validation left to go on that. I feel like, but as well as, and I say that to bring up the fact that there are, regular individuals like ourselves who have experiences, and you talk to family members, and you talk to friends, and you try to explain, that this is an actual thing that's taking place, and then they kind of don't give you as much time as you feel that you need in the moment to kind of walk away from it, like, yeah, okay, yeah, you may have them for a second, but then they walk away like, nah. I know that this is not, maybe I'll say this year only because we're so early into it. I don't like really to stomp down years, but I can say that in the short term future, there's going to be the validating moments for everybody else. So that's you, Cosmic Joe. That's myself. That is for anyone else who has had some sort of experience and who talks about it, not from, because I think there's two sides to that. I think for the people who say they've had an experience and they talk about maybe what happened during their experience, those people will be validated. The people that saw something weird, and I think there will still be ridicule left for the other side of the conversation, which is they're still within our community, and I've talked about this before. The group of people who just believe to believe, the people who are out there not telling the truth, the people out there who are making things up in this community, those people won't experience that validation because there will always be the goal line will constant. They will constantly have to move the goal line, right? Because yeah, you can come to a conclusion that they're here, and I think we can do that pretty soon here. You can come to the conclusion that they're not from here, which I think is something that could be done right here in the short term future. You could even validate the fact that they don't look like us, which I think can all be validated in a short period of time upon disclosure. But everything past that, they're from this star system. They all those other things that people claim that they know about these beings and these creatures. I don't think that gets validated for some time, if at all, truthfully. And I don't know that that part of it is that important when you think about the main part of disclosure that everyone should be concerned about is what are they, why are they here, what do they look like, maybe even how they travel here, what is the technology that brings them here. And I think the rest of that stuff doesn't really, I don't know that the rest of that stuff gets validated at any current time. I think that's something it way down the line, if ever. So I think there's a lot of people wasting time on parts of the conversation that we probably shouldn't even be having right now. I think more of the important part is those things that I mentioned right there. So I don't know, Cosmic Joe. I know different people feel different ways about that, but if you're being logical about this and you want to have the conversation with people who are on the skeptical side, which I think is very important for both sides to come together to have this conversation. The skeptics don't want to hear about that they're from this particular star system. This is what they do every day in their life. I don't think that they want to hear that part, and I don't think most of the world would care about that part. I think the most important part of the conversation that everyone should be having together is just the fact that these things are here. They don't look like us. Then why are they here? And then how are they getting here? And then I think that's the main conversation to have. What do you think, Cosmo Joe? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I listened to Barry Littleton on that. He talks about his experiences with blue aliens. Now, there's people are skeptical about his whatever he says, but I believe him. I think he's honest. So does our Keith Andrews. I talked to him many a times. Asked him about cloning processes and all. So he says they're able to remove your soul and put it into another body, a clone, but it cannot do that too many times, or the essence disappears. Now, did you see the Aspor documentary yet?
Yes, actually, I did. I did. What did
Yeah,
you think?
I pulled it because I wanted to, and I wanted to talk about it. And first of all, I saw the um Joe Rogan interview, and
Mm-hmm.
it was talking about magnetic forces, a high pulsing string around the crap, and I got a lot of model kits, and this model was hanging up of my um room for a long, long time. The S4.
Oh, is
This is
that
a
the sport
this
model?
this is a um this is a model of the S4 craft.
Wow.
The sports
Yeah,
craft.
the sport
Yeah,
model. Yeah,
the
exactly.
sports model. I had this for like 30 years because I talked on saw the documentary on um um about Bob Nassar years ago. And,
Mm-hmm.
these just a magnetic ring around this craft, and
Mm-hmm.
is I know you don't believe too much in anti gravity, in the past, but they claim there's anti gravity, and they can use that anti gravity for propulsion on this crap. As scrap it takes in the pool, element 115 is one of the main things that this crap utilizes. There's 223 grams of the element 115 that makes this craft come alive. There's little seats in this craft that supposedly aliens um sit in.
Yeah.
They showed the alien body being opened up. It said there was not like supposed their insides were all one together, not like us, separate heart and lungs and kidneys, whatever. You don't have any of that. So I thought it was it's no tripod legs on this crap either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
we'll get into that. We'll get into the S4 video because yeah, we definitely talked about watching that at the end of the last show that we did, and I wanted to actually have the show obviously done last Friday, but I was not here in town to do so. So we'll definitely cover some of that here tonight, and
I know he had a lot of conventions and stuff.
yeah, yeah. It was actually, it was what I thought it would be, and that's the thing. If you listen to Bob Lazar's story, but it was actually really great to be able to see it visually, I think was a good part of it.
Yeah.
Um and then the Rogan interview, as Mateo stated a couple weeks back, was a good addition to it. I think if anything, you should definitely watch both. I would recommend watching both because you get more perspective. You see the film and it's what you think, and then you get more perspective when you add the Rogan to it. But
Yeah.
I know I did have this other piece here. So we talked about those UFO videos, Rep Luna requested from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth that did not come out at the deadline of April 15th. So now she's going to put out a subpoena. He's going to try to duck it, as everyone else under Trump has done. It's very futile, but I was explaining to someone the steps are at least very important, because you can attempt to hold them in contempt, and then later on down the line you can bring him back to make him come back in and answer questions about why didn't you get the videos, like what was stopping you from getting the videos, why didn't you get them by this particular date when we asked you to get them, and then maybe something comes from that. But hopefully we don't have to worry about that. Hopefully there's other things that happen that will propel us forward. And I think there will be on this conversation. I did want to go ahead and take a look at, and we're going to have to do like bits and pieces of this, because I don't know how News Nation is going to act if I just play this entire interview. So we're going to play bits and pieces and we'll stop it as it goes. But this was Rep Burchett, I think, just pretty much being really open and transparent, as he has always shown over the years. Just tired of the BS. He's shown that he's been tired of being lied to. He's tired of, being drawn into these skiffs only to see something that he feels like should be shown in front of the public. He's said things that made statements like, what I've seen in these skits would I don't know, what did he say, change the world or rock your world or something along those lines, just kind of paraphrasing, but giving you an idea of how he's feeling about this. He's feeling like the stuff they're seeing should not be classified. And we can all agree that if these are images, I don't care how you're taking these images, there's different ways you can hide that fact. But showing what you're taking the image of, I think, is the most important part. And if it's not from here and it's from somewhere else and it's exhibiting, capabilities that should concern us, then we should, as the people, we should know about it. And the reason why is because the people are the most susceptible. Just think that these things were malevolent forces coming into this planet. The people are the most susceptible to this. The governments and the people in power, they get to hide off in the bunkers and they get to tuck themselves away and protect themselves in places like bunkers. We, the people, are the ones that are going to be left out here on the surface of the planet, exposed to Lord knows what, in the event that some of these things are malevolent, right? So it's like, it's another slap in the face as to why you wouldn't make sure that the people who are going to be frontline exposed to whatever this is, hopefully is good, but even if it isn't, that we need to know. We need to have all the data. We need to be briefed. We need to be in the skiffs. We need to be the ones who get the most information about what these things are, because in the event, once again, that these things end up being too much to handle for humanity, those powers that have been hiding the secrets are going to tuck themselves into these bunkers and these continuity of government bunkers and these reimagined missile silos where these billionaires are building. These guys are going to be tucked away until the coast is clear, leaving us, the people who are asking the questions and wanting to know the answers, to fend for ourselves in most cases against whatever this thing happens to be. And I think everyone should be concerned about that. And hopefully, without, being under the label of fearmonger, because I don't really like that label, because I don't think it's actually fear mongering. I think it's being prepared of the worst that could happen versus the best possible scenario, and just preparing on both ends of the spectrum. And just because today we might talk about preparing for the worst part of the spectrum, that doesn't entail fear mongering. That's preparedness, preparation, right? For the continuation of humanity. You have grandkids. We all have grandkids. Everybody has grandkids. You have grandnieces, nephews. The children that are going to control this planet in 50 years going down the line will all be gone. There's no way in the world that you should want to walk into the situation not knowing all of the information, because then you can't set them up for the best possible outcome, right? And that's kind of what we're up against is sci-fi, or as Mad Max, or as Terminator 2, or as Blade Runner 2049 esque it sounds. Like, we're talking, this is, things could literally become something like that, as you can see with the breakdown that we're having in our current society just today in 2026. Imagine if a breakdown like this continued for the next 20, 30 years, just getting worse and worse and worse, where we would be in the next 20 years. Now, and then those movies that you look at are not too far off of what the outcome of being in a cycle like that for 20 years would be. So it's all about being prepared, not fear mongering, but I preface that because Tim Burchett is kind of saying all this without saying it, right? He says it through a politician's lens, and we're going to go ahead, kind of take a look at it, stop and review it as well along the way. So let me go ahead and get that up here on the screen. And we will let this go for a little bit here.
Hey, I'm Joe Khalil here with Reality Check for Ross Coulthart. We just sat down with Congressman Tim Burchett for an extended interview on his recent briefing that he got, which he came out of with a sort of different perspective and said, look, if the country were able to see and hear what he saw and what he heard, it would be a paradigm shift. You'll see in the interview here that we let him talk. I asked a question and he really just took it and would run with it. But it was a lot of good insight, a little bit of frustration about why there's not progress, more so than there already has been, but a lot of interesting insight from a guy who has now been in the rooms and on the front lines of disclosure. Here is that interview. Congressman, we have heard a lot about this briefing that you got. You've been talking a lot about it, not in detail of what you heard.
Sure.
But can you lay out, leaving that briefing, it seems like you were a bit of a changed man after that. Talk to me about what the feeling was after.
I've had multiple briefings, and I guess, you know, I get a lot of doubters, and people make fun of me, even members of Congress, which is kind of ironic because there's always the guy in the crowd that makes a joke about it after somebody else does, and they come up to me and they say, man, I need to tell you something, you know, I'm in the military, or I saw something, or got a lot of people interested in this issue. But and I've had so many of these briefings now. I even had one since the one that you're describing. I had that was a member of our leadership arranged, which tells you the serious nature of this thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just think people need to know what we've seen and what these pilots are seeing. And Luna, for instance, we requested all those videos, and she is, you know, gave kind of a deadline when she'd like to have them by, and she calls over there, and they say, well, we don't know anything about the letter, kind of stuff, the same old stuff you and I've run into for years on this issue. And America's just ready. I think they would they'd be alarmed about what it is, and I think mostly they'd be alarmed at why the government won't allow it out.
Yeah.
And what's at the base of it, and you know, all the theories aside, whether you think it's extraterrestrial, if it's something from this earth, you know, if it's the Russians or the Chinese or the Americans, which I don't think it is. Talk and tell exactly what they've seen. And the last briefing I had, some pretty incredible photos, and I think that you should have the right to see those.
Yeah.
And the critics are going to blast it. You know, they're going to say it's AI, it's whatever. But you got to go back and ask yourself, why would some of the best pilots in the world, why would they risk their credibility to come out with this? Because anytime they make a sighting, a lot of times they'd have to get a psych evaluation and get all this stuff, and even if it's something they saw on radar. But now we've got officers in the Navy seeing these very, very large objects on sonar traveling at a very high rate of speed, something that's exponentially faster than anything we can accomplish. You got to realize that you have an object out there in the ocean that hovers, above the ocean in the air, that hovers for, could be hours on end. We have nothing with that capability. You have to you'd run out of fuel. And then when they take off, they just, maybe straight up, and the power to do that is the energy it'd take to fuel Los Angeles. I mean, it is that incredible.
Real quick on that. What do you think this is? I think this sounds a lot like confirmation, right? Confirmation on maybe some of the things that he saw without saying what he saw, but kind of confirming that, things that depict these sort of actions, are things that represent something that isn't from here. So it almost makes me feel like this isn't just from UAP whistleblowers, information that he's been given or he's heard. I'm sure some of this is, but I think a lot of it has to be from things that he's seen, that they've shown. As he starts it out, like there's some of the things that he's seen, and I think it leans more into that to where, and really why he is talking in the way that he's talking. Like, I've seen the stuff, like I've seen images, and it's so shockingly crazy. There's no way that you guys shouldn't be seeing this, right? And I think that's where he's coming from, and I hope he has seen it, right? Because then that means other representatives have seen it as well, and may be able to speak to it. But we need more people like Tim Burchett. Forget politics or what he does politically. I don't care about that. But as far as the UFO topic and being able to speak up for transparency and speak in such a frank nature, right? Without all the political speak, just talking like a person and essentially kind of explaining in layman's terms, essentially, why it's something that should not be classified and why the government should just release the stuff today. Let's go ahead and continue on with this here.
And I just don't see any reason why our government should be hiding it. And I don't like going into a meeting and an elected bureaucrat tells us that that the president is on a need-to-know basis. To me, that should be very telling to America that there's a lot more going on with this behind the scenes than we're aware.
And you've heard that directly?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. And I know Matt Gaetz spoke a couple weeks ago about a briefing he had on a breeding thing between alien life, but he didn't say he'd seen it. He didn't say it was fact. He just said that it was discussed with him by a member of the military. And have I heard those things? Oh, sure, I've heard those before, but I haven't seen anything. And I have my own beliefs about it, but about all the what's going on. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. I just think it's time for America to get this stuff, get this information.
What can you share about that briefing that really made you come out and say people would be shocked to see this? Can you tell us about
it was. I can tell you that just because everything I asked about, because there was someone in there in the meeting I felt like that was there to disrupt, mm-hmm. to maybe say that this person was not telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And again, this person had no reason to lie to us. It was in the skiff, of course, so I'm very limited on anything I can really say about it. But they said I gave certain incidences that had occurred and that I'd heard occur, and they could name dates, people, places, and to me it was very convincing. And I knew some of it, and they filled in the gaps. And these were things that there was no hesitation whatsoever. There was no, well, it wasn't anything like that. It was just straightforward. And then when this person asked these questions, I felt like they were to disrupt and contradict what they were saying. And went just a complete 180. Yeah. And that's what you're going to have, because you're going to have members of Congress who want to, for whatever reason, they don't want the truth, or they know it, and there's a certain arrogance up here too. You got to admit that. I mean, there's a complete arrogance. And again, I don't know if it's about little green men or flying saucers. I just know we're spending tens of millions of dollars on something. I think we should know what the heck we're spending that money on. And you can, when they bring it all out, just let people make up their own minds. Because there's going to be a group that's going to say, and look, I'm a born-again Christian. I'm from the forgiven end of that spectrum. But I'm not worried about the demonic element. I hear people say that. But there's no reason for demons to be doing this. It's such a small little area. I mean, they could come up here to Congress as easy as maybe they already have. I don't know. But and do I think it's the Chinese or the Russians? And I go back over this. If it was the Russians, they wouldn't be bogged down in Ukraine. If it's the Chinese, they'd own us. Some would argue, as I've stated, they own us already, but more so. And would it be the Americans? Why in the world would we risk a $500 million high-tech aircraft, or a fleet of aircraft, or a battleship or something, to be around these things and a pilot losing their life, when we just saw, rightfully so, the president spent millions of dollars to rescue a pilot. Yeah. We did not, and there's no telling what that cost, but that's a signal to the rest of the world and to our people that we value life. So there's no reason for us to be doing that. Yeah. And I won't go too far into it, but I've talked to folks that are at the highest levels, and they will tell you that they've asked the one higher up level in the whole security paradigm, I guess, and they've indicated that it is definitely not them.
So that sort of transitions me.
So is he stating there, and I think they say right there that they've even tapped into those who are part of the who are controlling the black projects, essentially, and they're stating that these objects aren't theirs, right? And didn't we just have a drone flap happen over some military bases in the South here within the last couple months, right? The same type of vehicles that we saw over in New Jersey, right? Which were these weird, they at some points looked like regular craft, but a lot of people said they saw these things morph from balls of light into and manifest into physical craft. For whatever reason that they would be doing that, I think we at least probably have evidence of them doing that on some of those videos, and maybe some of the videos that get released. I would hope that some of the videos released are of what those things in New Jersey were, only because they were there for 2 months straight, like clockwork, in the sky. They're going to show the one, I think one of the videos is supposedly one of those objects that were shot down over the Yukon during that Chinese balloon situation. Remember, they shot down the balloon over the Pacific, the actual balloon, but then they encountered other objects over the Yukon that they never showed, and they never said they were balloons. They just said they were kind of these weird unidentified things, and they said they didn't recover it, right? As far as I remember. So yeah, so that's supposed to be one of the videos, and I would hope that within that group is some of whatever these things are in that were over New Jersey, because they have to have crystal clear video and imagery of what these things were, because they sat right in the same part of the sky for a period of 2 years and then disappeared after a point. So you know for a fact that part of this video archive that maybe not this group that they requested, but somewhere in the video archive, and truthfully, if we're being truthful, it should be part of the civilian archive too, because just as well as the militaries have saw those things up there every day, so did everyday people, and so did everyday researchers and people with cameras and people with telescopes. So I just feel like there should be also a group of videos and photos of whatever those things were, crystal clear. They couldn't have been any more than a few 100 feet up in the sky. So you're telling me, are you saying to me that no one has a crystal clear image of what those were? And if they don't, and if they tried and they couldn't get that, then there's a reason behind why they couldn't get something that was that close. They were prepared for it. We're talking about, with 2 months, you have the opportunity to prepare the highest resolution camera you can get a hold of. They've been there every day, so you can post up with the best camera to take the best image or video of whatever this object is. And if they did that and still didn't get a clear idea of what it was, that says a lot right there. With that being said, and Kyle Joe, before we jump back into this, did you have anything you wanted to say about that before we jump back into the video?
Well, I've been experimenting on. After the chat, somebody said I was part of the secret soldier program. I was to the point, but they kind of left me alone for my own devices, and it's still being monitored, but they're not helping me with things I should be helped with.
Okay.
So it's difficult for me to fully tell anyone what I think is going to happen. I don't want to be a giver of bad news or anything like that, and come to find I'm wrong, what people say. But these people who are trying to disclose things, I think they're trying to do a service to mankind, but they're being stagnated by other forces.
That is true. That is very, very true. I couldn't have said it any better. Let's jump back in and see what Tim Burchett is adding to this conversation here.
To my next question, which is that we've heard rumors about President Trump potentially preparing for some level of disclosure about.
And I believe that. I had that very conversation with him.
So where is he on that? Is he ready to do that? And a follow-up on that before you get to it is, let's say he makes some kind of statement during the war with Iran. Do you think that sort of undermines, people might say, well, he's trying to distract?
They're always going to say he's distracting. This is just a distraction. And the best day to release this stuff was yesterday. And the second best day to release it is right now.
So is he going to do that?
I hope so. I think he's not beholden to that community.
Yeah.
And,
but you've talked to him about it. What's your feeling on whether he's ready?
Well, I don't generally publicly discuss too much what I discussed with the president about, because that could end up I would not talk. He wouldn't talk to me as freely as he does when we talk. But and we talked 14 minutes. I was looking at my watch and I was like, "Holy cow, it's 14 minutes." It's about a lot of things, but I told him, I said, it's like layers of the onion, Mr. President. I said, you just keep peeling it back. Yeah, you put the 1 and 2 people in there, but these lifetime career people are in there, and for whatever reason, they're not releasing anything. And also, I feel like the material or whatever it's out there that we have, we don't really have it anymore because they farmed it out to these corporations, and these corporations are not FOIA-able. Freedom of Information Act is for the people back home.
Yeah.
It's when I can say, hey, FBI, release this stuff. I want to see this stuff. And under FOIA, allegedly they're supposed to release it. But say if Ford Motor Company had it, they wouldn't have to release it. And I feel like that's what's happened to a lot of it. And a lot of the stuff we've seen is that I think that we have is probably the people that are dissecting it or whatever they're doing with it probably don't realize exactly what it is or where it came from. They might have an idea, but people with the direct knowledge are mostly gone. So it's kind of like during at Oak Ridge during the Second World War. I've met people. I met this one guy I met one time. I was out knocking on doors, and he was of my parents' age, and I asked him what branch he was in because he was putting his American flag out, and he said, well, I wasn't in the war. And I said, oh, okay. And he was kind of sheepish about it, and he said, well, I worked at Oak Ridge. And I was like, if my dad were here, he'd hug you, because Daddy was on Okinawa when they dropped the bomb. They thought they were going to invade Japan. They were getting ready to, he's 1st Marine Division. They were going to be in the fight. I said, my daddy was here, he'd hug your neck. My mama would probably give you a kiss on the cheek. But he said that, he just kind of said this thing, and it always stuck in my mind. He said, funny thing, he said, my wife worked there too, and I never knew what she did, and she never knew what I did till after the war. I mean, because people honored that back then. It's not everything's a book deal or a clickbait or something, and it's compartmentalized, and
that makes it harder.
It makes it very hard. And then when those people die, direct knowledge goes. I mean, Roswell, everybody talks about Roswell, and there's a couple other incidents that occurred. But it doesn't help when you go into a meeting, one of these secure meetings with a bureaucrat who's kind of a smart aleck, political appointee, and you have the career people that are usually their military officers, and you ask about a specific incident, and the direct quote to me was, we do not have data points on that, Congressman. And it was something that was a pretty documented case that had occurred, and there's a couple of them actually we talked about, and they talk, and and they bring in this smart aleck thinking he's uncovered everything, that we're just a bunch of idiots. I mean, he showed a bunch of like one was a birthday balloon, the metallic ones that have some kind of metal in them or whatever, and then of course they look like what you can see is a flying saucer, and somebody takes a picture of it outside the window of a 747 as they're flying by, whoosh, and it looks like it's going, but it's really just stationary. And he said, well, and they slow it down and do all this stuff, and then you actually see a cartoon character on this balloon. Obviously, this is, and nobody's even talking about that. I mean, that stuff's just, even the folks, the so-called UFO community, they just dismiss those kind of things because they
actively trying to disprove some of the
and I felt, and his arrogant, smart aleck nature was not very beneficial. It was a complete waste of time. And I have noticed when I walk into some of these meetings, the attitude changes. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I want to just sort of process what you think it would be like if the president decided to release images or videos that have been classified, or goes and says, there are these technologies and we believe they very well may be NHI, non-human intelligence.
Every time we ask for something specific, the military or the war pimps at the Pentagon, the intelligentsia as I call them, they hide behind national security. If you remember, I had the bill a few years back It was 2 pages long to release it, release everything. And then the Democrat Schumer, actually, in the Senate, everybody thought, oh, Schumer's on board with us. And he wanted to release, his bill is 60 pages. And it created some structure similar to the Kennedy files. Kennedy was shot over 60 years ago, and they still won't release everything on that. And, you know, and that's what they wanted to create, and everybody was cheering, oh, Schumer's on our side. No, he's not. If he was on our side, he would have done this years ago. The push is coming from people that haven't been here very long. Yeah. And some of our leadership now, after they've seen some things, they want to know.
But I want to get back to, like, you mentioned you think people are ready to hear this and make their own judgments and see what you've seen. I'm just wondering, like, I'm thinking back to the most historic moments in my life, like 9/11 comes to mind. I feel like this would be a moment like that. The president comes out and says, look what
comes on the news, say, this is what it is, we don't know what it is.
Yeah, so
but the military industrial war complex, whatever you want to call it, is going to hide behind national security every dadgum time. They're going to claim that, and that's part of the problem. That's why we've got a president in the White House, I think, that gets it and is sick of it and thinks America maybe is not arrogant enough to believe that he's the end all.
Yeah. Robert heard something from some sources about Arrow reaching out to other agencies. We don't know exactly what this is about.
Yeah. And I have a lot of fear because of that. I don't like Arrow.
What do you know about, what can you say about their reaching out? It seems like there's some kind of coordination about...
they want to be the ones that coordinate it. And in my opinion, they've been the problem in the past because their guy has attacked me, their former, and just said some things that if he actually said it, I didn't hear it. But if he said it, they're just untrue. And that's part of the problem, too, within this so-called UFO community. There's a lot of fighting, and everybody wants to, and I get it. Somebody's selling T-shirts and baseball caps, and they got a book tour, and they want to do a movie and all this stuff. And I think there's plenty for everybody. I'm not worried about all that. I'm not caught up in all that. I just want to get the truth out. I think transparency, that's something I've been a big part of for a long time.
Okay. I just continue to wonder about if it's not the president coming out, do you see any authoritative figure that could come out with a level of credibility that would make Americans say,
unless somebody walks out of one of those labs with something and releases it before they disappear or commit suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head 12 times. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay. And last one for you. What do we know, if anything, about these 10 scientists?
Well, it's actually more than that, actually, if you go back a little farther. But we know that they were in our aeronautical defense industry, or complex, just all around the spectrum on that. And it's
with clearance, many of them high level
clearance, and you figure 10 of them. That we'll just say the 10. If there were 10 chefs across this country disappeared or died mysteriously, people would start questioning what the heck. There were 10 used car salesmen, dealerships, 10 preachers, 10 whatever, 10 masseuses. I don't care. I think America would probably take notice, and I think they finally are taking notice because this all fits in. And I know family members are going to say, well, they got nothing to do with the UFO, but generally they don't talk. They keep it. Most of those guys and gals are so locked down, they keep their mouth shut because they didn't. Their nuclear secrets that they would have already leaked out as well.
And maybe futile effort, but is Congress looking at that at all? I haven't seen any.
Some of them are, but
investigative.
Somebody. It's always just us on the fringe that are doing it, and there's a few of us that are involved. And I'd say there's about, I don't know, maybe 10 of us that are watching this thing pretty close and haven't peeled off yet. Because some of those people were, oddly enough, people that I'd encouraged to come to meetings because I wanted people that were objective and maybe didn't believe
Some
in
of the
any of
scientists, you mean?
no. Some of the members of Congress.
Oh, gotcha.
And now some of them are some of the. I mean, they're the biggest fans of this thing that I've seen actually, because they came from nothing and then they see these things and they can be skeptical of some of it and some of it is questionable. But we've had so many obstacles on this thing. When Luna and Matt Gaetz and I went down to Florida to Eglin, they turned us away. We were told we were going to see. There were some pilots that wanted to talk to us, and they showed it. They briefed us on some stuff that was pretty incredible that had nothing to do with this subject. And then and Matt told them, said, we're going to subpoena you all. And I mentioned to him, I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell us the answer is 1.75 and the real answer is 1.74, and you're going to be held in contempt. I said, you're going to mess something up and you're going to get in some serious trouble here. I said, because Matt's pretty tough orator and he's a very tough attorney, and he got on the phone, and whoever Big Air Force is, because they came back in about an hour, and they took us upstairs and gave us a nice fruit tray at taxpayers' expense, and then they brought the pilots in, and those are the kind of things I wished America could listen to and talk to, because it was very interesting. And I mean, that just sort of, that kind of lit the fuse for a lot of members when that deal went down.
All right, I will leave it here. Is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't talk about now?
Yeah, I'll just say I'm as frustrated as America is. I see people say, I wish Burchett would shut up about this, but you all ask me about it. I don't set up the interviews. I'm glad to talk about it. I just, I'm very frustrated with it too. I don't know that we'll ever get to the bottom of it unless Trump does it, or unless one of these scientists walks out of one of these private labs and says, what's going on? So I would hope, and people, and let me clarify something too. People say, you need to go to Area 51, to Wright Patterson, you need to go here or there. As soon as we announce we're going to go there, I don't think we're going to find, I think we'll probably find an empty warehouse. Yeah. It's going to take the President of the United States to step up and say, this has gone on long enough. We got to get to the bottom of this.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time. Thank you, guys.
I can agree with that, guys. I can agree. I can totally agree. This is why we need people like this working from the inside. This is why we need, and shout out to everybody who's coming on in during the show here. Deadfish Cheese Spread, Lex Diaz, let's see, Roger Murphy as well. Hillbilly Herb showing on up. Appreciate you coming on in. Paramarv in the building as well, as we go through. Who else came through while we were talking here? I think that might be it. We know we have some lurkers out there. We Riders DG came in representing. Appreciate you as well. Yeah, we're gonna have this We're gonna have this problem of the obfuscation. You have to wonder, how far can it go? They try to use these subpoena powers, and hopefully, if we're to set government aside and say, let this process work, hopefully that's a process that can work on its own while we do what we do over here, and attempt to deliver some answers there. But I agree with him when he says it's going to take somebody that's working with one of those programs to step out. That's kind of what we've been saying the whole time. It's going to take somebody who is hands-on, who has that moment of compassion, right? And says, you know what? This has to come out. Like, there's not anything that you could do to me or say to me or inflict on me that would stop me from stepping out on behalf of humanity in order to make sure that this subject or this secret comes out. I feel like we're moving into that area, right? and you have this whole set of circumstances with these scientists, which I still don't know that they're related to the release of information. I don't know that they're necessarily related to the disclosure movement. Is very, very peculiar. We went over this a couple weeks ago, that they would all be linked in the way that they're linked. I would say for sure they seem to be the disappearances and the types of individuals and the facilities that they worked for. If you go back to the last video we did here on the channel, we went over a list. The Paramar sent us a list, and we went over that list. And there's a lot of dots that do connect with a few different facilities, a few different levels of occupation, we'll say, and individuals who were in those particular positions who ended up mysteriously disappearing, passing away along those lines. Definitely dots connect on that end. Is it related directly to the UFO topic or UFO disclosure? I'm still out for that one. I just don't know. I'm just not sure that I can put my hat all the way on that, but it's very peculiar, and it wouldn't be out the realm of possibility. I mean, if you think about it, I've always said that as far as disclosure, if we're looking at a gauge on disclosure and where we're at with it, we are literally, I feel like one step before we get to either where the craft are, like we either are or almost talking to the people that are working at the facilities. That's what I feel like. The next shoe to drop is where these craft are, right? Let's go back to the Ross Coulthard video. That video of that egg object being taken from wherever it was picked up to the destination, right? If we're assuming that that was authentic video, which I feel more likely than not, and I've said for various reasons why I feel like that was an authentic video, but if we're to assume that is, then you're witnessing something being picked up from whatever location and being taken to its destination, which is likely the government contractor, wherever they're working on these things. So if we're seeing things that are connecting those dots, or at least depicting those dots being connected, then there isn't much further to go as far as whistleblower information is concerned, except for having someone come out who operated on the body. Well, wait, maybe we have that in the James Fox, Virginia video, the disclosure video, where we have the doctor who says they brought this being in and he laid right here in this bed. So maybe we already even have that part of the puzzle. Maybe we have it almost all. That's what makes me feel like that there isn't much more. It would take a slight gust of wind to blow down this fence that's blocking us to disclosure. And my thing and what I wonder about is, are the extraterrestrials, or whatever you want to call them, are they aware that we're at this moment? Do they understand that humanity is literally on the cusp of taking all this information in at once and going through this moment of disclosure? Are they aware that we're literally down here going through that moment, or preparing to go through that moment? That's a big question. That's a big question, because assuming that they're aware that we are going through this transitional period where the mass of human beings may understand that there is something here, does that then up the visibility of what these things are? So do we see them more often then? Once they realize, oh, okay, they know we're here, do we then see them more often? Do they make themselves known more often, more present, right? Because we already know that the next question in this whole thing is, why are they here? What do they want? And are they here for the right reasons or wrong reasons, right? These are the next questions that we have that are to be answered in this situation. So if we're at that disclosure point where it's like people are becoming aware, oh, okay, yeah, they're here, then now what happens? I can't believe that they wouldn't be aware that we're going through this moment right now. I can't believe that they be totally disconnected to not understand that humanity as a whole is going through this transition. So once they understand that we have reached that point, what happens next? What is their next move? Is it like, oh, okay, they know we're here and we'll just keep doing what we're doing and that's it? It could be one thing that happens. It could be that we get disclosure and we just know they're there and now we just see them and say, hey, there goes some extraterrestrials as they go about doing their business as they always have for all of time, and nothing different happens. It could literally be just as uneventful as that. It could be. Or, it could be, okay, now they're aware, as we spoke about a moment ago. Now we are more comfortable to make our presence more known, which leads to, I don't know, right? If you're to believe of the presidential, the contact with the meetings with President Eisenhower, and we laid a groundwork to say why those things could have happened. The whole MJ-12, the whole meeting with the president, and how those time frames did kind of line up and link up together, and made sense on why there would be a meeting if there was ever going to be one, why it would make sense for there to be a meeting, especially so soon after Roswell. So, if we're to believe that that was the path that was taken or that actually transpired, then, once they're aware that we have gone through this disclosure moment, maybe that supports the idea that they would then make themselves more shown or more known, or even, ready to implement, then phase 2 or phase 3 or whatever the next phase is for their plan, for us here, or our interaction, or our coexistence, or our the war against, I don't know a better way to say it, but the resistance, maybe. Benno from Oz. Maybe they cannot really intervene to that degree. Maybe humans could be an elaborate experiment. Sorry if that upset some people. Yeah, it could be just that, just like I just stated. One aspect that nobody really looks at is, okay, disclosure comes, we know they're here, they know we know they're here, and they just still just do whatever they do, and they just, don't interact to any more degree or any other level. They just continue behind the shadows and moving around at the way that they have been, and just in and out the ocean and just come and go, and never really interact. But the part that would that's very plausible, right? But then you take into account the conversations that people have about abductions and those sort of interactions, because you'd figure if they're just here to do whatever business they've been doing for millennia, and they were going to continue to do that, the interactions, they wouldn't necessarily need to interact with us on that level. They just, continue to do whatever business they have here, whatever resources they're mining, and, just going about their business. But on some level, historically, it has been made, brought to the surface that they do interact with us on some levels. They try to communicate with us. If you have some experiencers that talk about it, and it's like, okay, does that escalate? Because they're showing that they do interact with us. They do attempt to communicate. So it's the natural progression for that to escalate the involvement and communication levels. Is that the natural next step? if they weren't interacting with us, I would probably say that they would just continue to go on about normal, right? Just, oh, okay, they're showing awareness that we're here, but that doesn't mean we need to interact with them. We just keep doing what we're doing. We have no reason to interact. So if they were not already interacting with us, then I can lean on that as possibly being the way forward, that they would just continue to do their business and not pay us any mind. But because they do interact with us and on intimate levels in some cases, if you believe what some experiencers say, then it would you would anticipate that there is a next level of engagement, and that's the word I was looking for earlier, engagement, between them and us. If you know, I don't think there's ever been and maybe we can think about that, but there doesn't seem to be a time we can point to where humanity have been fully aware of their presence. We know it's been depicted in like pictograms and things of that nature. We know that there's been shapes that they've drawn that look like extraterrestrials. So, but that could be, it could be still a marginal part of the overall community, the same way it is today, where you have the UFO community that's a percentage of the overall population. And if all we had was pictograms today, we would probably depict some of these entities in these pictograms as well, right? So I think the presence of pictogram doesn't necessarily indicate that it was still a widely accepted phenomena of the time. It was likely divided in some of the same ways that it's divided today amongst religion and other beliefs, if the discussion was to be had on a large scale. So if that's the case, then even over time, even though they would have been here all this time and different levels of civilization, of human civilization, would have encountered these things, there's nothing that says that we had fully embraced them and interacted with them in any level higher than what we're currently interacting with them on, which would indicate that maybe there had never been a level of human acceptance or globally of the extraterrestrial presence, and the fact that these things are not from here and they're from somewhere else, right? This could be the first time in humanity's history that we've had the globe, all of civilization, open and aware to the fact that these things are traveling in from other places to this planet. So this literally could be the first time that that's been, something that we have come to the conclusion of as human beings at one time. Especially if globally there wasn't the ability to kind of communicate with each other, it would make sense that this would probably be the first time in our, especially in recent humanity's history, if this version of humanity, if we're to believe that there were previous civilizations before, maybe on some level they did that before, but in this current iteration of what we call our lineage, our timeline of humanity here being, going from Stone Age to current modern day, that unbroken chain, that, this may be the first time as a whole group of individuals that we realized that something was traveling in from another planet, right? Kind of crazy. And I can't, as I said, I think at the beginning of the show, I think there's going to be a moment where you have some of those skeptics, that have been sitting out there just saying, nah, it's not true. They're not here. It's impossible. They couldn't travel here. There's no way. And, it feels like because we're so close to that moment of this being, becoming a reality, we're also almost at a moment where we get to, in real time, see these skeptical opinions shift. And think about it. Think about even the hardest skeptics, the Mick Wests, the Michael Shermer's, the Neil deGrasse Tyson's, all the guys out there that are just like, yeah, I mean, there's probably is life out there, but they're just not traveling here. They're not here. So those guys, we'll have a moment in time where we literally get to see perception shift and what that does to a person who, even though the evidence was there and they chose not to look at it, has been presented with overwhelming evidence that has to shift their perspective. And we'll get to see that in real time. I think that'll be a beautiful thing to see, because then you can immediately get an idea of, how what a shift like that does to a person when you go from one end of the spectrum to the other overnight, right? It's going to be an awesome study. And I think I can't wait for that part of it. I still don't see a way forward for our current society. And maybe that's just, we're here to talk about it, but I guess we could pose the question, right? And we've done that many times on this channel before. That's the idea of why we do this channel. It's about post-disclosure. It's about what happens next. What happens after the announcement? What happens once civilization, when society figures out this is all, this is real? Like, what is then next? What are the next steps? How do we go forward as humanity? What are the impacts of in changes in the current state of humanity? How does that shift or change as we move past that disclosure point? Does it shift or change? Are people willing to go through what it takes to make a shift or change in what the structure that we have? And that's kind of what this is all about. You have a lot of people who don't like the way this society is currently, the way that it's designed to, kind of almost enslave the people at the lower end of the economic spectrum for the benefit of the people at the top, right? It's not a great structure. I think a lot of people agree with that. And so in a moment where you have a disclosure that could shift literally or make society more pliable again, then you have the ability to kind of mold the way that this works for everybody going forward, right? So once again, it's a very important moment in time, and the reason why we get together and have these conversations is for that very reason. Maybe there's a conversation we can have once again that would allow us to shift and shape the way that we move forward after the realization that we're not alone on this planet, because then, there should be no more idolizing a human being at that point, right? You have, I don't idolize any one particular human being at all, but there are those that do and worship and follow, right? Another human being. So once you understand that this thing is way bigger than anything that a human being can present to you or present for you or do for you, you kind of don't look at the authority structure, the hierarchy in the same way, right? And I feel like that's how a lot of people are going to come out of this, feeling like, oh, why am I doing this thing that other human beings have created for me to do? Why am I kind of trapping myself into this bubble that other human beings have created for me to put me into? I think that awakening happens just like we saw in COVID. A lot of people were like, hey, I don't want to work anymore. They disconnected from this machine that is we call society here on this earth. Once you understand there's something bigger than earth and bigger than what we've built here, I think the mechanisms of traditional society break down at that time. Or you have at least a mass exodus of individuals who want to do things differently. And we pointed to a lot of reasons on why that's probably the best move to make, right? If we're talking about the future of humanity going down thousands of years down the road, this moment that we're in, we're able to kind of alter, just like with an asteroid, right? If you can hit it early enough, you can change the trajectory so that it takes a different path. It's the same thing with the future of humanity, with what we're doing. The little things we're doing here is enough to kind of shift the trajectory of where we go. And I think if we were to sit down and have a meeting, the entire humanity themselves, all of us together, we'd probably agree that some of the things that we're doing aren't things that we should be doing. And here's some things that'd be better ideas to do. Hey, let's rethink this or rethink that. A lot of us are born into these programs and these machines. We don't have a chance. We just have to connect into them and just live your life that way. Then it spits you out at the end of your life, in your retirement years, and the cycle continues. And we can change that. We can change it. We should change it. We should change that for sure. Now let me go back and see. This is one thing that I did say, and I'll say it again, and I will continue to say this, because I think it makes so much when you look at this perspective, especially when you're like, okay, changing society, okay, changing the path. Like, what does that mean? Like, I'm kind of okay with the way things are. Things aren't so bad, right? When you think about it like that, right? Some people do. Some people are like, you know what? It's not really that bad. It's kind of okay. Think about it like this. This one always gets them, right? If you think about plugging yourself into the machine, and usually we'll just, for rounding off numbers, we'll say they put you into the machine at about 20. It's a little earlier than that, but we'll just say 20. And then they work you or utilize your abilities until 65, right? We'll just round it off and make it easy, the math easy, right? So that's 45 years of essentially your entire working life, right? Now, if you're blessed enough to be, because you have to work in order to survive or to live. That's the way it's been designed, right? So if you're blessed enough to live and work for 45 years straight, every working day, aside from your weekends off, and we'll just say your salary is $50,000 a year. No, before taxes, because we know taxes is a whole nother level of the game. But let's say without taxes, the perfect world, no taxes, right? You're making $50,000, which a lot of people are not making. Just start there. That's on the higher end, truthfully. $50,000 salary times your 45 years of service before taxes is $2.2 million. That's if you work every day. If you're employed every day with a job that pays you $50,000 a year without any breaks in employment, you would make before taxes 2.2, and you already know after taxes it's going to be under 2. It's going to be definitely a lot lower, right? So we'll just stay on the high end of that. $2.2 million for 45 years of your work, of your blood, sweat, and tears to keep your family afloat. And if you dare miss any of those days, you might be living on the street somewhere. If somebody came to you at 20 years old and said, here's a check for $2.2 million. In exchange for this, you're going to work for me for the next 45 years. As a 20-year-old person, are you accepting a check for $2.2 million to essentially indebt or enslave your life to this corporation for the next 45 years? If you say no, guess what? You're already doing it. You're doing it, and you're probably not even doing it on that level. If you're making less than $50,000 a year, you have signed yourself over for less than $2.2 million for your lifetime over to a corporation your entire life, right? Is that something you really want to do? Does that make sense to do? It doesn't make sense to do. I think if you asked anyone that question, if you went down a line of 100,000 people and said, okay, 18 years old, here's a check for $2.2 million, work for me for the next 45 years, I think the answer would be no. No. You might get an occasional yes, but it'd be no across the board. But that's what's happening. And it's happening, obviously, that's even on the higher end. A lot of people aren't making over $50,000. Some people are, but it's just not the majority. So when you think about it, could this system be designed better? So those same people that were like in the beginning, well, no, I kind of like how it is. No, think about it. I don't think you give the same answer after you look at that math equation. And I think when you put that in perspective, you're kind of like, it's actually not that good. It actually could be better, and not necessarily, dollar wise, as far as, because truthfully, I think the dollar is the thing that is the problem, and that's what creates the division and disparity within humanity. That's why you have the 1%ers and the 99%ers. But without going too deep into that, right? The whole point is that this moment that we're in with disclosure, and why it's so important for everybody to include themselves in this and in the conversation, is because we're in a moment where we can shift how this whole structure has been set up, right? The only real time, there's a couple of other examples where you might have the opportunity to shift how this is set up. This is one of them, disclosure. The other two are more catastrophic, which we've talked about before, is like a nuclear war, a world war, or an asteroid impact. Those are messy, messy things, right? Disclosure, the moment we happen to find ourselves in right now, is one of the moments that is going to allow us to make that shift. So what do? That's why it's so important. That's why we get together and have the conversations. It's not just to shoot the breeze. It's because we are literally in a moment where we can make those sort of changes and shifts for the future of our descendants, grandkids. And like I said, we will likely not see the results of this but we know the work we're doing will manifest itself for 100 years down the line, once they start seeing kind of the results of us making sacrifices and kind of doing the things that we're doing to make that shift. But if we don't make the shift and we allow society to continue in the way that it is, in the way it's structured, you have to understand, look at what it is for yourself. Like I said, 2.2 million for 45 years of your life. Do you think that number gets any better over time? It doesn't. So you're literally setting your grandchildren up for the same thing. Your great-great-grandchildren who you may never meet, you're setting them up to sign their lives away, 45 years of work for $2.2 million. Maybe the number shifts a little bit, but still not enough to sign your life over for. You have the opportunity to help change that now. It's deep. It's deep, but it's true, and it's shocking when you put it that way. It is very shocking, but it is very true. And it just amplifies the reason why these conversations are important, right? So with that being said, I hope if you have not considered subscribing to this channel, just as I take a quick break, we do have conversations that move the needle on this channel. Sometimes the conversations are tough in relation to things that affect humanity. That's what this channel is, the social dig. We are always looking for ways to positively shift the direction of humanity. And it just so happens that in this moment, the disclosure situation, and this is like one of the biggest things probably of all time to affect humanity. And as I just stated before, we're in a moment where we could shift how this works out for humanity. And that's why it's so important, and the reason why we cover that on this channel, and we'll continue to do so, because it is all about conversations that move the needle. So if you're here for the first time, we consider having you back for these deep, tough conversations. And obviously a show like this, you can join the stage and you can kind of talk about your feelings about what we talked about. The stage is still open. And I'm going to end up bringing back our guest from earlier, who before we close this thing out. Let me see here. All right, let me kind of go up in here and grab some. We had a question for Rob Jeezy. This is from way earlier. Rob Jeezy, what if they bring full disclosure, then the NHI wants to openly enslave humanity? Well, that's the thing. The problem is that whether or not they bring disclosure, the government saying them, if there's a plan there, if there's some plan to be implemented by these non-human intelligence, it's going to happen at some point in time. There's really not any way to kind of get around that. So if it's that's a worst case scenario thing, obviously, when you talk about openly enslave humanity, right? But if that was something that was on their agenda, there comes a time where we would have to repel that, right? So even if it's today or if it's 100 years down the line, they don't implement that plan till then, whenever it happens, it's a moment where humanity has to repel that. So I'd rather be part of that repelling. I'd rather it happen now so we can kind of get through it to kind of set things up for the future of our children, our descendants. You know, if it's something that we have to get through, then I would definitely say we should kick it off as soon as possible so we can get through it, get over it, get past it, and do what we have to do next. Yeah. Lex Diaz, maybe we're ahead of our time and in the future we will be recognized. Maybe. No, this is true. I really think that this moment, and it's literally like in these few years here that you've been a part of this conversation. Like 8 years ago, we weren't here. Like we saw the potential of things moving in the right direction, but we weren't here. Like when we say here, it feels like we're just right there, right? I don't think it's ever felt like we're right there. So I definitely think when they write books, right, and they talk about things that happened in the past, big moments in humanity's history, I think this ends up being one of them. And I think the way that humanity handles it goes down in the book. The same way that the Epstein files, right? You got the whole world standing up for X, Y, and Z, right? That will be recorded in history, how humanity, all human beings came together for that issue, and in the way they went about trying to move forward with it. This is no different. This is a moment in time where, but I think it's even bigger moment. It's pretty big, but I think it's another example of these things will be written about later on in the future. And the backstory will be how was it handled, right? When we look back on things historically, like marches on Washington and all these things, we end up being proud of those moments. And we end up being proud of the people who took part in those moments and thankful, right? We end up being thankful when we see those old reels from 50, 60, 70 years ago, where we see our ancestors and stuff walking and doing these things for the betterment of us here in the future. It's no different than that. But it's even on a larger scale, if you can believe it. But it's just as important as those moments and decisions were at that time. It's just as important, the moments and decisions that we're dealing with right now for this. This will dictate if in the future People who look back on this history say, yes, they handled it brilliantly. Or no, they fumbled the ball. They could have done this better, right? And that's kind of where we're at. That's why we have these conversations, because we want to make sure that we do the right things in this. And then we set our future people up for the right, for great moments and for results. Because they will look back on this. And we are ahead of our time. Think of all of humanity, the thousand years they lived. How many people lived in a moment where it was a shifting moment for humanity? It hasn't happened many times. People, you're lucky to be born in a moment where within your lifetime, you can experience a shifting of a huge shift. Right? That's what this is. That's exactly what this is. But we'll be dead by then. Yeah, we likely won't see the results. Same way the people who marched and did their thing 50, 60, 70 years ago, a lot of them didn't live to see their results, but you have to do it. It's the thing that tells you internally that you have to do this, right? And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. That's why we get together and have these conversations, because it's something we're compelled to do. We have to do it because we know that what we do benefits those in the future. Billy Herb, your path lies within. Don't let someone else pave it for you. Exactly. And I always thought about that as a kid. I'm just like, okay, you're born and then all of a sudden you go to school. Like, it was already set up for you to do this. Like, the machine was already created. So how do you even break that chain? You're born into it. How do you even break the chain? The only way to break the chain is to have moments like this, humanity shifting moments, which are far and few between. That's the only way. Lex Diaz, disconnect from the machine. That is it. Time perfectly, Deadfish Cheeseburger said, for sure. This is kind of what exactly, Lex Diaz. I wish here in America we could all just have a big huddle and talk about what we're going to do next together. That's why we do this show. You perfectly outlined it there. That's why we have to get this conversation out to many more people. We need to have many more of these types of conversations with larger and larger groups of people, because that's exactly what this is. This is a huddle and talking about what we can do next together. That's exactly what this channel is. That's exactly what we are building this channel off of, is doing exactly that. So that's awesome you put that there, Lex, because I don't think you meant to do that. Let's see. Or I don't think you realize that that's what you were connecting the two, but that's exactly it. Roger Murray. Rob G, not Roger Murphy. Yeah, no, Roger Murray. Yeah. Did I say Murphy? I hope I didn't. It's Roger Murray. Let's see. Yeah, we got the radio show happening here now, Lex Diaz. Don't worry about it. We got we'll be starting Saturdays back here. I don't know about Sundays, but already got it all set up here, Lex Diaz. So After Hours radio show right here on Social Talk Radio. Actually, since you guys are here and Lex Diaz, you said that, let me show it to you. Let me get ready. We'll bring our Cosmic Joe back on stage and we'll wrap everything up here. I just want to, this is for you, Lex Diaz. This is what we've been working on for the After Hours for the weekend. And let me go ahead and show you real quick.
Like a retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. Take for thing to see. Just like a weed, spread into the streets. Time to make them bleed. 'Cause we just want retribution.
Yes, Lex Diaz. So we got it coming back on the weekend. Just stay tuned. I'm lining everything up. Just need to set some guests up for that. We'll be back in the building. We got a few things going on. We have, and for everybody, we have this show, which we're on now, which is the Friday night call-in show. I've been dealing with some family stuff, which I'm still currently dealing with, which has kept me away from being able to do these other shows. But we still have, once again, the Friday night show, which is this one. We also have the After Hours radio show, which you just saw. That's more of an interview style show. And so we already have that set up. And then we also have a show called the Definitive UFO News Show. And it's pretty detailed. And we have like slideshow presentations, things of that nature that we present during the show. So it's a lot of work putting that show together, and due to the family issues that we're currently having, like I have a family member right now that I need your prayers for, that is still in the intensive care unit, that has been there since it's been a month almost here now, and it's been up and down, and I just want you guys to send healing energies out. And that's kind of what I'm dealing with. And the reason why I'm unable to get to the rest of these shows in this moment is because of that. And I just appreciate your patience in this, but we're going to the moon. We're taking this to the next level this year as we get into disclosure. And this is the place you definitely want to come and have the conversation. So once again, if you're here for the first time, we'd appreciate you guys hitting that like button, hit the subscribe button, as we get ready to come back with a lot of heavy duty content here on this channel. We're just getting it started. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so just tell a friend for sure. We'd appreciate it. Also, let me see here. Jeff H. Cheeseburger was saying the only thing the government lied about was that balloon was from China. Yeah. Alpine Fur saying great show. Appreciate you. Lex Diaz throwing up all the emojis here. Appreciate your love here. Benno saying this is way cool, Rob. Yeah, this is obviously I put the show together, put all the graphics together, the music, everything was all produced from this end. So I was like, you know what? Why leave it the same? I went ahead, did a little tweak on it for the Social Dig debut, and the outro is just as awesome as the intro. And we're going to be having some real conversations with some real guys and real gals who have a lot to add to this topic. The motto here is truth, transparency on behalf of humanity. If it isn't that, then we're not doing it here. So we'd appreciate you tuning in. Woo Riders DG, prayers your mom and family have great health, Rob Jeezy. I appreciate that, and I know she does as well. As we deal through some tough stuff, man, I want to be here, but then I gotta be there for family. So it's a balance. I will never stop doing this. My family member wouldn't want me to do that. And the mission for humanity and for our descendants all is just too important to ever even consider stopping to do this. So even if you see we take a break for a week, we're not gone. Believe me, you understand what's currently going on, and we will be back. So make sure you guys know that. And And I appreciate you guys sticking around. I really do. Hillbilly Herb, right on, Mr. Rob G. Looking forward to After Hours Sitting in High Vibes. Appreciate you, sir. Let's see. Lex Diaz saying, hell yeah. Cosmic Joe, who's in the back, we're going to bring back up here in a moment, saying send in 11 prayers. Appreciate you, Cosmic Joe. Hillbilly Herb, Healing Vibes. Benno from Oz, prayers for you and your family, mate. Appreciate you, and they all appreciate you too. Lex Diaz saying awesome. We ride as DG. Rob has a Discord server also. Sure do. Yep, that's the link right there. Billy Herb has it up there. You can join this link anytime. We have a 24-hour Discord where members of this community are all in there. A lot of people have joined. You can join anytime by clicking that link. It's a free service. It's just like almost like a chat room where anyone could be in there at any time, right? We all hop in and out of there. We're going to be trying to do movies in there as well. I know there's a way to do movies and kind of so we can get together and like have a movie night or something like that. So make sure you join the Discord because we'll be doing a lot of stuff in there. Also, let's see, Deathwish Sheet Spray. It was a U.S. balloon launch from Montana. They just said it was from China to take away from the UFOs they shot down less than a week earlier. Here's what I'll tell you about that. And we did a show on this channel about that, but the UAP report for 2022, I think it was due August or October 31st, 2022, and they blew past that date. They didn't say why they were late, but for some reason, they didn't say anything all the way through the month of January. Now we're in 2023, still no report, no reason why it's late. It was mandated that it's supposed to be released on time. They just didn't care. They didn't care that they violated that. Then here we go about 2 weeks into that new year, they are like, here's the report. They released a report. And in that UAP report, just so happened, released in like mid-January 2023, they have a mention for the very first time in any of these reports of balloon-like entities. They mentioned this term for the very first time in that, and you can go back and look at this. It was the very first time they released balloon-like entities as one of the descriptors for these anomalous objects they're seeing, right? Well, wouldn't you know it, a week after that, they happened to spot a balloon-like entity, i.e. the Chinese spy balloon, which is no coincidence that it's a white ball, because guess what else has been reported? UFOs that are white spheres or white balls, right? So they tried to use that moment, and it was given away by the fact that they were late with the UAP report. For one, it's like, why were you late? Oh, you were late because you were orchestrating the Chinese spy balloon. A week before the Chinese spy balloon, they released a report that says balloon-like entities, and that most of the things they were seeing were clear, translucent spheres, and they tried to confuse the two so that the public says, oh, these white balls that they're seeing in the sky, they're Chinese spy balloons, because look, here was one they tracked across the United States. They let go all the way across the United States on primetime news every night, and ended with this spectacular shoot down over the Atlantic Ocean. So that means anytime they're talking about these white spheres or white balls, they're these spy balloons. It's evident. We just shot one down. But then they didn't show you the other objects they shot down right after that, right? Which is part of the whole controversy. But I just wanted to bring that up because we did a show about that to show that this was all pre-planned, the whole Chinese spy balloon, that it wasn't necessarily ours. And also the fact of spy balloon, they were like, well, we hadn't calibrated our radars to detect spy balloons, but now that we see them, now we will go forward and kind of recalibrate our radar. But the whole point was spy balloons have been used since World War II. Spy balloons, they were dropping bombs over California, Japan was, with these, I forgot the name of the balloons. They were using balloons back in World War II. So we didn't just discover the fact that adversaries were using China or spy balloons or balloons as counterintelligence just in 2022 or 2023. We have pictures of them from 1945, 1943. So it's a great show. It's in our archives. So if you want to jump in here and take a look at it, we kind of break that down pretty well on why it was just a bunch of BS. And yeah. Dead Fish says, yes, that was a BS story. Yes. And we pointed out too many reasons why it was. So it's definitely a good watch. We Riders, not to mention the balloons went over the U.S. military bases. Come on, get the fuck out of here. Military industrial deep state complex. That's what I'm saying. Common sense, I think, and I always say this, I think common sense is literally one of the tools, the natural gifts that you were given to kind of filter through a lot of the BS that is presented to you throughout life. Common sense, and a lot of us, most of us have it. I think all of us have it. Not all of us tap into it, I think, but I think it's the thing that allows us to kind of think through this, and that's why you don't have to be, you know, some graduate of some university. Your academics don't have anything to do with your ability to tap into your own logic and common sense, right? I think someone who's never gone to school can think more logically and with common sense on a level greater than any degree you can get from being schooled. And that's what it is. The Hello Kitty balloons, Rob. Yeah, funny stuff. Funny. The whole balloon thing where they were trying to blame balloons for a lot of it's just a bunch of BS. But once again, those same people who did that, they're about to have their moment where for them it could be it's no way to deny what they're going to be in, what they're going to see, what they're going to experience. We're going to witness these people who every day have called everything that they've been put in front of them balloons, drones, birds. They never opened up their mind to the fact it could be anything else but something explainable. Oh, this is the exhaust from a jet. Oh, this is obviously a helicopter. Oh, this is definitely a flock of birds. So this is for sure drones, and people are flying drones. So those individuals right there, it's going to be a delicious, exquisite, beautiful moment to watch the shift in opinion. Right? And we're going to welcome them with open arms because we knew the whole time. We saw the weird stuff. We're going to welcome them with open arms and say, it's okay. Let me help you through this ontological shock. Let's start having the conversation that we need to have. And let's figure out what we're going to do next, guys. This is where we're going to get ready to shut it down. Let me bring Cosmic Joe back on real quick to talk to you guys real quick here. Cosmic Joe. I've been there talking to the people, man, making sure that we get this out here. What do you got? What do you got to say, maybe about anything that we talked about here tonight, and then something you want to leave the audience with?
Well, he said about people with common sense. Now, on my travels working in Western United States, the more information that they have, right, the less common sense they got. For example, the vending machine in Western United States, the guy put his cash in, look at a vending machine for about 10 minutes. I said, you got to push this button and get this hat. And, oh yeah. And it occurred to him. Now, we talk about this crap, want to mention that they try to use flashlights or halogen lights in this crap, but it was total darkness, similar to their editing he got on their video, similar to me being in haunted Monterey thing, on farmhouse, and was discussing Buddy was causing these shadow pickers to control everything in this house, and
Mm-hmm.
pushing me down steps, similar to the embassy I was working in, where I encountered a coach that upper above me. I could see her at first, right, and then the upper whispering in my ear, foreign things that my Paul said. I told him somebody whispering me. He said, if he say anything else, I gotta fire you. So then I went to the corner with still in my ear, still in my presence, and I set my tape measure down, right, on this, and this embassy I was working in. Society of Cincinnatus was called. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the voice of this girl gasp, and then a giant shadow entity came and turned my tape measure around clockwise and laughed at me, and then left. It was it were the experience. So
That is awesome, Cosmic Joe, and I'm actually in the show talking about that because it kind of goes into my relative here that I was talking about. I was actually just go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to shut down the show talking about that experience.
you can see me on YouTube, and I post everything I do on my playlist. Cosmic Joe Pals on TikTok. Cosmic Joe Pals. I got a Cosmic Origin series, and I post short video clips and things that happened in my life. So
Well, I didn't know you had all that, Cosmic Joe. We'll have
I
to show
can
some of that next week.
I'm on Facebook too, but I don't do too much on my name. Joseph White is my name. But,
Okay.
yeah, I pretty much that's all I do. I don't go on Instagram too much, but I kind of post there. I got Cosmic Joe everywhere. Try to get around. But the last thing I want to talk about is I got rats, right? And I
Okay.
was in a I got a my living room is my kitchen, really,
Mm-hmm.
because another kitchen is trashed. So I a big rat came near me, under my feet, and I didn't jump, but I hovered in place for about 3 or 4 seconds and touched down on my floor. So that was like a levitation. I didn't control it at all, you know. I didn't control it, but one of these things that I can do is cooling, producing frequencies and stuff. I can do that. I could control my density pretty much. That's why I can hover like that. It freaked me out totally because I cannot do things like that normally. But
Right.
and honor
I,
to rest.
I would be levitating too if I saw a huge rat. That's a fact. What we'll do is like I said,
It's a
we'll
right.
we'll go show some of your stuff on your channel like up in the upcoming weeks here. So I'm gonna take a look at your YouTube as we have on the screen. Check Cosmic Joe out over at youtube.com/at Cosmic Joe as it shows right here on the screen. Colin Joe, once again, man, you're always awesome, dude. I appreciate you coming on up. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to
Thanks for
wrap
having
this
me.
thing up.
Hello to everyone in the chat. I love you all.
All right. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you end everything with love. LOVE, love. Why not? Why not do it, right? It's easier to love than it is to hate. I think it takes less energy to do so. And who likes negative energy, anyways, right? But I wanted to kind of close out, yeah, because Cosmo Joe was talking about the shadow person, right? And I started the show off talking about this because obviously, I can't say as many times I need to here. I have a family member that needs your prayers and support out there. It is, it is at a point where the only thing, it outside of you have medical opinion, and then you have, I'd even say faith, right? And I think you have, when it comes down to situations like this, you have medical experts who rely on medical schooling and the knowledge obtained within that. Also, previous cases that follow within a framework in order for them to make decisions or predictions from. But then you also have an element of faith, which I don't think those two things actually ever intersect for most medical professionals, right? So when you hear something, you're hearing things from a strictly medical perspective, and the information you're being given is based solely on that and leans nothing into faith. And I think on the faith side is more of the unknown, the consciousness element, the spirituality element, the healing energy that we always talk about. I think that's more on this side of it, right? And it's more of the unknown, because we have examples of healing energy being something that's bigger than what a medical expert can explain. They can't explain what healing energy is, although I know they've seen examples of it, but maybe they don't prescribe to it. The same way you have scientists that stick within their box when it comes to the UFO phenomena and don't consider anything super anomalous outside of the physics that they understand. And I think when we compare the medical, that I think there's healing energies that work outside of a medical, professional's box, and that's kind of where we're at right now, right? Where if great things are going to happen in regards to this family member, it has to come from this faith consciousness, this unknown box, right? And that's why I ask for your healing energies, and not just something I'm saying is really that energy that you put out there into the world, that good energy. I want to try to harness that and see if this prevails over this, right? And that's kind of the moment that we're in. So I just ask that you send as much healing energy as you can out there, and whether that's through a God you pray through, or if it's just simply you saying, hey, sending healing energy, it's all the same, and I appreciate you guys doing that, and kind of want to just lay it out there, because and to go back to the shadow person piece. Now, I was talking to one of my family members about the just the proof, right? Because you can be religious, and then if you are, then you already have this understanding of there being some sort of afterlife. But if you're technically not fully into religion, or you haven't read a Bible or one of the books that kind of tell you that there's this after place, but you've been exposed to like the phenomena, for instance, and you see things like apparitions, or in my case, shadow people, then it allows you to know, just based on that experience, that there's something past what we already understand, right? And it means that wherever this shadow person exists is in a separate place than what we understand is basic reality in life per se, right? So I think, even if you've never been religious, you've never read a Bible, you've never done any of that, if you've been exposed to the phenomena, you too may have had experiences that let you know that there's something more to this, right? And so it's not really any different than a person that is spiritual and reads the Bible and religious and solely understands there's something because the Bible says that it is. We're talking about experiences in life and what the phenomena that also lets you know that. And I think if you have those two things, then we can say with surety that there definitely is something that we're looking forward to after this, and that there is some sort of energy that we can call upon, whether it's through a God or whether it's through whatever, and kind of manifest this healing. And hopefully that's what we can do here. I just call on everybody to do that. I really do appreciate it. I do it for you. Roger Murray, Healing Energies out to you once again as you go through your dialysis. And I hope everybody's day is better than it was today. Even if you had a great day today, I hope it's even better tomorrow. So once again, we appreciate you guys for coming on in. It's an awesome show as always. I love hanging out with each and every one of you guys and appreciate the support that you guys give. Outside of that, once again, this is the Friday Night Live call-in show. My name is Mr. Rob G, and I appreciate you coming in. We'll do this again next week. Assuming things are great, you'll see me right here. If not, just check our community posts. I usually will post something there to kind of give you guys a heads up. But outside of that, have a great rest of your night. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. And I will see you next time. Later.